family. I wanted to make this video today because I think time is very short here as far as our window that many of us have been watching in relation to things that are going on in the news, the iPet 2 video, some other commercials and movies that are reflecting numbers and dates. I think we're in that time frame now, and I figured that I would try to put a video together showing some of the things that I see. So here we go. So is time really up? We have a blood moon that's about to take place on the 20th and 21st here in North America, and science has always speculated that blood moons and full moons and things like that have always had an effect on occurrences in the earth. Now we've seen an uptick in earthquakes, and we've seen some tsunamis like the one in Indonesia. And is this what they're trying to communicate to us, that this blood moon is a indicator or a time marker that something big is about to occur? Well, we're going to find out very soon. So here we are. We are in the Wushu Year of the Dog, and this is reflected in the iPet 2 video. And what I find interesting here, well, here's the date. This is a year of Earth Dog, started from the 2018 Chinese New Year on February 16th and lasting to 2019 Lunar New Year's Eve on February 4th. So that means on February 5th, it will be the first of 2019 according to the Chinese New Year, and that new year will be called the Year of the Pig. Now, something I thought was very interesting here is the lucky flower associated with the Wushu Year of the Dog, and that happens to be a rose. And the lucky colors will be green, red, and purple, and I'll show you something about that later in the video. So here we are. This is where we are right now. We're in the last month, the 12th lunar month of the Year of the Dog, and the yellow reflects the calendar we keep, which is the Gregorian calendar. So we're in January here, and right now it is January 19th, Saturday, but the lunar date is, it's the 12th month, and it is the 14th day of the 12th month of the Wushu Year of the Dog, and this is important. So we'll come back to this in a bit. So I'm going to touch on the iPet video and just some things that I see. New York and the Midwest is going family. So I'm, excuse me, currently, and this video, the iPet video, which came out in 2012, and they began design on it in 2006, and now it's 2019. So anything that's within this video obviously has been planned way in advance, and it is set to come to fruition if this video is for real before February 5th, which is the New Year, Chinese Lunar Year of the Pig. Okay, so here we have Lily, the character in the classroom, and she's got a rose in her ear, and according to the Wu information, she's got a rose in her ear, so that's their lucky flower. I do think that this apple represents New York City. I think it also could represent the blood moon that we're about to see here in the next 2 days. So I'm going to link the video at the end. So in case you haven't seen this iPet video, and there's another video called Get Ready, I'm going to link them both in the description box so that you can catch up if you haven't seen this information before. Now here on the floor, Lily drops the apple and it rolls across the room. Now before it hits Obama's shoe, we see that it looks like it could represent a blood moon. It could represent a volcano going off. It rolls across the floor 7 times. Not sure if that matters, but here on the floor we see an L. Now an L is the 12th letter of the alphabet. It could also be a 7, from the perspective of Barack Obama, who's sitting in the chair here, looking down upon it. So if this represents a 12, it could be flipped and represent a 21 as well. I do believe the C that's here, the way it's brushed and the way it looks like it's coming over the apple, represents a tsunami. There's also a 7 on the shoe here. I'm not really sure what that means, but we will cover that in a second as well. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay. So once it hits Obama's shoe, the apple seems to split wide open. We see 2 seeds here. We see 1 seed here. So that could represent another 21. So if we look at this as a 12, 12, 21. Now what do I see in relation to 1221? We go to the lunar calendar. Now, the 12th month, if we go down to the 21st day, which is here, it's 16th. So January 21st, lunar would be 12, 16, and 6 and 1 can be 7. So that's what I see. I see that this picture here, this could be a 12. It could also be a 7. And then we have the 21 here, which surprisingly enough happens to be when the blood moon should be occurring. If you look at this scene here, you've got 12 children in the classroom. They've all got different markings on their face. This represents the solar eclipse that we saw last year. This is Donald Trump right here with his hair parted, sitting there with his hands pointed down, like you see when he's on TV or in news articles. That's just the way he sits. But you see here on this character, there's a 2, and there's a 1, and then you also see an L here and a C here. And I think that represents lunar calendar. 21, we need to be looking at both calendars so we can try and figure this out. So, as we move away from that, I find several things in this video, like this scene here, which confirm, at least according to this video, there's a woo here in the snow, W, and there's a U here, and it shows the flag ripped in half, and you're going to see in a second that this represents a gigantic tsunami that's coming over New York City, and this is also Pier A in New York City. I'll show you that as well. So these events are set to take place. Do I know specifically what day? I don't. I'm just showing you what I see in this video. And I do want to make mention that I didn't come up with all of this on my own. I've been looking into this video for the past probably 3 years almost. And it's a multi-layered video. So it does show, different events, some that have taken place already, like the Parkland shooting. That's reflected in the classroom. Julian T pointed that out. JKbugout has been working on this for years. I have learned a lot from those guys, and I'm just pointing out a few things that I see personally, other than things that they've already previously mentioned. But I wouldn't be able to do any of this without having followed the way that they look at the video and how they understand the video. It's given me some clear eyes to find a few things for myself, and I'm just showing you a collaboration of all of that. So I think this represents New York City right here. And it also looks like the Twin Towers burning from 2001. Now, the JKbugout 2 video is basically a video that was created to reveal the second 9/11, which will be a world-affecting event. So you see the buildings on fire here. In this scene, when you watch the video, the lights seem to blink out. Now, I find it ironic that New York City is about to get hit with a major snow and ice storm, I believe starting tonight and through tomorrow, and the blood moon is occurring at the same time as well. So we're going to see what happens. I don't know. I'm just putting my thoughts out there on this video, and I do know that if this video is for real, that by February 4th this will have happened. So I'm just pointing out a time frame where it may happen. So you see the ice shelf here, and you can see an eye here, and this looks like a shark. The Russians seem to have a submarine called the Akula class, and that is a nuclear submarine that they have, and they also have a new torpedo called the Poseidon. And I think that if this event does occur, it will be blamed on something else, but that's going to be how it actually is created. And I'll show you a little more on that in a second. Here we have a submarine sitting in the water. You can see the teeth here. It looks like a shark. I think that represents the Russian sub. And here's the tower at 12 o'clock. That could also mean the 12th month. And I'm just pointing out that it's covered in snow, so it looks like it's during winter. And I'm going to show you a little bit more on that. Here we have the Pier A Harbor in New York City. There's the clock tower that I just showed you. In the scene, it's covered with snow. I think that just represents a snowstorm. And here's your Freedom Tower here. And this happens to be at the tip of Manhattan. Now, in iPetGoat, we do see this scene here. And to me, this always looked like a dog, and not really many other people have notated that. But here I threw a little clip art there to show you what I'm seeing. We do know that this video does take place within the year of the dog. Here's the Statue of Liberty. There's the Star of David. And here's the gigantic tsunami wave that's approaching. Now, this scene seems to be taking place at nighttime. Now, this to me is the statue right before it gets hit with the tsunami, and in the video, the torch falls, which means Liberty is falling. This swirl up here with the light going dark, to me, it could represent the light of the moon being covered by the shade, which turns it blood red. Also, it could be the swirling of a wind storm related to the snowstorm that they're about to get. And then just here's a little clip here. This is a few days ago, but I'm just showing that their temperatures are supposed to go way down here for these 2 days. So it's not looking pretty for New York City as far as that's concerned. I want to show you this as well. Here's another scene in iPetGoat. Now, here we go. We've got this was a church, and I believe that may represent St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is in New York City, crumbling down. Is it crumbling down because of a gigantic tsunami? In this scene, it's more than likely. Here we see a large S. Here we see a U. And then here in this part right here, we see the A. So we know that this scene takes place in the USA. Over here in the clouds, you can see almost in script, woo written. And then if you squint your eyes a little bit and look at this, this looks like a bent lowercase n. And then it comes down here, and you can see it come back up a little bit there and then come back down, and that looks like a Y. And then here you have a C. So I think that's showing in the clouds there, New York City in the year of woo. Within the USA, this gigantic wave crashing over the buildings that are here. This looks like the Freedom Tower to me. So it looks like a gigantic tsunami hitting the tip of Lower Manhattan, and it looks like a substantial one. And that is probably something that can be created by a Russian sub with a nuclear torpedo. And then here we have something interesting. Here I see one, and then it's cut off here, and then there's another one. So is that saying to us 21? I don't know for sure. I'm just pointing out what's there. But something else I noticed is if you flip this over, it looks like buried in the snow is a 9, a 1, and a 1. So 911 event. Today is 119. I'm not saying anything's going to happen today. It's just, one more coincidence. But I do think before the 4th of February is over, that this event will have taken place, and this will change the economy in the United States. This will affect multiple states. How will this tsunami be created? I don't know, but according to the video, it seems to be pointing to the fact that it's going to be caused by a bomb that is being placed, I believe, in Babylon Canyon, which is off the coast of New York, and I will show you a little bit on that. Now, I have been privileged enough to have had multiple dreams over the past few years, and I've had a Russian invasion dream. I've had one about a volcano going off. I have had a few rapture dreams. I have had a dream about New York City and a tsunami, and several others. I've had one about Obama and him being demonically possessed. Many think he's the Antichrist. I'm leaning that way. I don't know for sure, and no one else does either. But here's a dream I had a few years. Well, actually, last year. This one. Um, Last night I had two dreams that went on, and I was in and out of sleep. But these dreams seemed to pick right back up and continue. I was feeling frustrated by them, that they wouldn't go away. Around 5:30 or 6 this morning, I woke again for the fourth or fifth time, and lying there, I said to myself, Lord, please, if I'm going to dream anything, give me something important. I fell asleep again. This time, I was in a light sleep and saw the ocean at night. I couldn't see any land, only light. There was the only light there was coming from moonlight. I saw some bubbling coming up in a spread out area and wondered what it was. Then I saw a large, wide burst of air come up as if a huge explosion took place underwater. I could see the ripple begin to expand and rise up as it traveled away. In the dream, I seemed to follow along its path. In the dream, I felt like I was riding the wave, like looking at the top of the wave from kind of behind it, but following on top of it. I suddenly saw buildings getting closer, and there were a few, but one that stood out to me was Toys R Us. It was a really big store right off the coast. I knew in the dream this huge wave was going to hit that area. Then suddenly I was taken to another scene where I saw this wave growing and it hit the Statue of Liberty. I didn't see it break, but the water was high enough to come chest high on the statue. As I continued past it, I could see lower Manhattan in the distance, and then I woke up. When I got up shortly after, it was heavy on my mind, so I decided to look up Coastal Toys R Us in New York because I didn't know if there was even one anywhere near the water there, and this is what I found. And I'm going to show you in a second. Apparently there is, and if a tsunami was generated in the ocean, it would hit that area first before making its way onto the statue, followed by the tip of Manhattan. I do believe this wasn't a normal dream because of the Toys R Us, which I had no idea existed in such a location, being on the water in Brooklyn. I also feel like the bubbling in the water was telling me that there may have been a submarine or something under the water which caused the explosion. I did not see that, but that's the feeling I had when thinking about it. Also thinking about this, maybe it was an earthquake, and that caused the tsunami. I don't know, but I will be honest with you. I did have this dream before I figured out the things in iPetGoat related to the New York City tsunami. At least a few of them. So I'm going to show you really quick that I looked this up that morning after the dream, and this is Brooklyn right here, this big area, and there's a Toys R Us right here on the water. Now, I'm from New York. I lived in Manhattan for 10 years, and my last 9 years I spent in Brooklyn before moving down here to North Carolina. But I had never known that there was a Toys R Us here. Um, so when I looked it up, I was a little surprised. Now, here's the lane that a tsunami would take. It would obviously hit this entire area and some of Staten Island if it were going to travel up this way and wind up hitting New York. And this, I believe, the Statue of Liberty is right here. So I'll show you a little bit more. Let's see, what do we got here? Okay. Yeah. So here's where the Pier A Harbor House is that I showed you earlier. Um, that's this. That's in the iPetGoat tsunami scene. So that's located right here on the left of the tip of Lower Manhattan. And I'm not sure if you are familiar, but off the coast of New York, there is Babylon Canyon. It's these grooves that are underwater. Um, and ironically enough, if the United States is Babylon, there's a canyon here named Babylon Canyon. If a nuclear torpedo or bomb was to go off here, it would obviously crack this, create an earthquake, and cause an incredible tsunami that would probably hit all over this area and travel up here and push through New York City. Um, Now, I'm going to show you this. Like I said, I had that dream before I noticed this, which I find to be interesting. Now, in this scene, there's something that had taken place about a year and a half ago. And like I said, this video came out in 2012. But originally, this scene was deciphered, revealing Hurricane Harvey. And we have the storm here, and then the lightning coming down, and the oil rig here. And then Hurricane Irma, which these are the Florida hurricane birds. You can see one of them right here. It's like the mascot for the college football team. And there's another bird back here, so you know that this is talking about Florida. And this is something that was embedded in the video. It's multi-layered, so it shows multiple events over the course of years, which is pretty amazing. And this is oil dripping down into water. And if you watch the video, you'll see it. It forms a 3-2-1. I don't know exactly what that means. But what I see in this video is this is a wave right here. And here, this looks like a city skyline under here. Because there's really just, if this was a storm, there's no purpose really for this to be there. But in my opinion, that's what this looks like. This looks like a gigantic tsunami covering a city. And right here, it does spell New York in the lightning, and I'll show you that in a second. And here, to me, there's an explosion in the ocean, which creates this tsunami. Now, I couldn't figure out how to get this on here, but we'll put it here. Let's see. Okay. Now, if you look at the lightning here and look at the lightning here, you can see the NY for New York in the lightning. And that's something I just discovered about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. So we've covered that. Now, there's a video called Be Ready, which came out in 2013. And I'm going to link that video in the description box as well. But here we have symbols. Now, in this video, which is very creepy, it's basically a guy standing in front of a video screen, and he shows the founder of the Illuminati, and then he scrolls past pictures of all types of events that have taken place and gets to one where the image is blurred out. And I think they're referring to the 9/11 event in JKbugout that they've been planning for decades. So I'm going to show you here. I took screenshots, and if I flipped it around the other way, so you can see sector, New York, water. And here you can see run away. Now, this came out in 2013, but I do think it does refer to this time period that we're in right now. And they have these symbols up at the end of the video, and here it looks like it's 1 o'clock, but maybe that could be January, because there are 12 months in a year. This is on 1, so that to me could possibly refer to January. And here we have the yin yang symbol, and I did a little lookup on the yin yang symbol. And here's a definition. The principle of yin and yang is that all things exist as inseparable and contrary opposites. And you also see like the as above, so below, black and white. A lot the Freemasons use that in their floor tiles. And I've got this information. In Chinese mythology, yin and yang were born from chaos when the universe was first created. Now we know the truth about the universe, that God created a flat stationary earth, and the universe is just things, stars that like are in the dome here. So there is no universe. There's just what God created, and we've been misled our entire lives and for generations. And here we have, when there's too great an imbalance between yin and yang, catastrophes can occur, such as floods, droughts, and plagues. Okay, so is that why they're saying January, chaos, and then here we have the symbol for Aquarius, which we're about to enter. Aquarius begins January 21st. It goes to February 19th. So, could this mean January, chaos, in Aquarius, and then here we have a representation of the globe Earth, and we see North and South America, and we see a plug. Does that mean the power's going to go out? Does that mean that the internet's going to be cut off? Does that mean a combination of these things? Like I said, I don't know. I'm just presenting what's being shown here, and it just seems to be that we're in this time frame. Something else we need to be watching for tonight. Donald Trump is going to be making a speech today at 3 o'clock related to, I believe, the government's shutdown and also the border crisis, they call it. I'm very suspicious of why they have so many military men down there on our border, and the potential of these events taking place over the next few days. And if they do take place, it would be convenient, I would say, for our government to be able to lock down the southern states and declare martial law. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we had Jade Helm 15 a few years ago, and they were concentrated in exactly the same area, the border along, Mexico. And now it just seems that we have our military spread out all along that area. It's just suspicious, if nothing else. Months ago, we saw Donald Trump in the news, and he was talking about the calm before the storm. He was very cryptic in mentioning that. He didn't really explain what he meant. So, could the storm be, the time frame that we're in right now, about to unfold? Here we see Time Magazine, another government control publication, just like everything else is. Started out with this photo, and then we got here because it started getting stormy. And then here we see, another one where he's in deep, and, you can see that, in a way that could even reflect a tsunami. Who knows what these crazy people are all about? We've seen predictive programming for years. The Illuminati card game, New World Order card shows Manhattan underwater. We've seen it in movies. The Simpsons is notorious for predictive programming. Here you see them scuba diving in Manhattan. This is a billboard that was in Brooklyn about a year and a half ago, with the statue right here and the tsunami wave coming. I mean, it's just everywhere, and people just look at it and, they don't pay attention. Here's Wendy Williams, 2 Halloweens ago on her TV show with the Statue of Liberty as her Halloween costume. If you haven't seen this before, all of a sudden she has like a fainting spell and falls down. So I just think that that's more predictive programming of the fall of America. And in New York City, we have St. John's the Divine, which is a Masonic church, and they have some pillars. You can look those up on Google, but one of them we see New York City. Here's the original Twin Towers. This was done before they fell, being overtaken by a tsunami wave. Um, Here's the Macy's Parade. This was from a few years ago, but they used this several times. And here's your New York City skyline, and here it appears to be on fire. The Big Apple, which represents New York City, in on this float, if you have eyes to see, is a nuclear explosion, and it's burning the city. Um, let's see, what else do I have here? Yep, like I said, we've seen this in videos and movies for years, and you know, day after tomorrow. Then we've got here Bill Clinton with Kim Jong Il, and they have a mural behind them with a gigantic tsunami wave hitting a city. Um, so it's been out there for years, and if you've been awake for a while, like, this is not new to you. Um, so what else do I want to show you? I want to show you this. So Donald Trump and iPet Goat. Okay, that's Donald Trump. That's the way he sits. That's Donald Trump with his hair, and that's the way he sits. I pointed this out on Facebook many times. This is my first time putting this out there on YouTube. But if this iPet Goat video did come out in 2012, that was several years before Donald Trump even announced that he would be a candidate to run for president. So we can just see with these very simple things that, everything has been controlled from day one. We were born into the deception, and the world is a stage. These people are psychopaths. These events that do occur, these monster storms and earthquakes and presidencies and plot twists in the news, is all scripted nonsense for the blind sheep that aren't awake, and and it drives us that are awake pretty insane. So here's Psalm 23. This is in iPet Goat as the scene comes out of the classroom, and then the scene begins where the tsunami overtakes New York City. We see this on the wall, but if you just cut this down here, we see that it pretty clearly spells Donald. So there's two Donald Trump references within that video. And then down here, I thought this was pretty interesting. The 20th, which is when the eclipse begins, is also Donald Trump's second year anniversary as president of the United States. And then I peck out here, you have George Bush, and it was a close up. Julian T pointed this out. In his eyebrows, you can see here an L. I believe that means lunar. And then here is a 5 and a 1. And then, so it looks like lunar 15th. And the lunar 15th, and I can show you, is January 20th. Now, will there be an attempt on Donald Trump? Potentially. Here is a form of a guy, and here's his head. There's Donald's hair right there. And then this looks like arms crossed over each other in the laying down position with his legs bent up. So we've seen Snoop Dogg video. We've seen Kathy Griffin. We've seen, I don't know, multiple Donald Trump, at the Christmas tree lighting with the red dot lasers on his face and on his jacket. We've seen indicators that something's going to happen to Donald Trump. I do believe that it's going to happen in order for the chaos to be created, like these lunatics want. There will have to be a removal of Donald Trump in some capacity. I do believe it will be a false flag shooting, pulled off, by the government and our media, who are absolute puppets of the government. You can't believe anything you hear in the news, so you need to be aware of these things. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing. Here we go. As I mentioned earlier, the Wu Year the dog. The lucky colors green, red, and purple. So on February 4th, that is New Year's Eve, um, for the Chinese lunar calendar. So that means China, that means Korea. They follow these calendars. And then here we have a scene in iPet Goat also, where you have a skeleton. The scene seems to take place on the border of North and South Korea. 923 is everywhere. Here's a 2 in the eye. Here's a 3 here. And this is a 9. But he blows this out, and you see fireworks going off behind him. We see red. We see purple here. And then we see green. Is this their New Year celebration when something goes down between North and South Korea? In that scene, we see tanks rolling in, and there's a girl waving a white flag, a surrender flag, basically saying that she doesn't want any nuclear war. We're going to find these things out. So I don't know. We need to pay attention to the next few days, and we shall see what happens. But yeah, I mean, that's all I've got for you guys. So we'll see how it goes. Did I just do all that for nothing?